Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Sweet Combat Season 1, Episode 26. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So we're picking up where last episode left off with you telling Tion, like, right, the storm is past, everything's good, I think everything's golden, which sadly it's not. Because I had even said last episode, her saying the phrase, oh, like the storm is past, is like, nah, they're still, once again, things didn't go direction I thought they would. Like I said, there's still the through line of Tian's dad and Yu's uncle G. That storyline still has not been fully resolved, and once again the breadcrumbs are being set up, but the storylines haven't fully converged yet. So I knew that I wasn't expecting the storm to be what it is this episode. Because at one point later on, Yu is hanging out at Tien's place, and it's like, oh, they ended up eating instant noodles, and she's like, oh my god, this is so great. Oh, he's like, all I did was put an egg in it, nothing too fancy. But for her, it's like, I never get the amount of water right and stuff. It's just, she's like, I always kind of still manage to mess it up. But I think there's also that element of, oh my god, you cook something for me and your siblings to share, so it's kind of like, I'm extra. But it's also like, right, there's a lot of things in life that because she herself has kind of stepped out of her own comfort zone in so many ways. Like, she's expanded and she's grown as a person, a lot of which because of Tiana. He's kind of given her a different perspective on things. Her worldview has grown, even though being kind of as international as she is, to the extent because of her family's connections and business dealings on an international scale, she was still very, her purview was just from her family's purview, and now it's like her broad view of the world has kind of expanded in a lot of ways. It's kind of interesting. I mean, I guess you could make the argument her view of the world has always been expanded, but the micro scaling of her purview has been expanded upon her. She's kind of finally seeing things on a micro level like she never did before. So maybe that's an argument or more accurate description of it. But either way, while she was at Tian's place, her grandfather's kind of upset, when she's getting back, oh, she hanging out with that boy again. And her brother's like, yeah, can't you, obviously her feelings for him are genuine. They're not going to go away. I mean, look at what she's done with MMA. She's been practicing that for years, and she's just as passionate. So can't we just give them our blessing? But for him, it's like, yeah, the test isn't over. We'll see how really strong and resilient they are. I was like, Jesus, homie. And we find out what that means later on. Well, I'll tie it all together with my thought, but I talked about it previously. Her grandfather's not in the the webtoon that much. He's in it a little bit. And like I said, his appearances, he kind of plays a similar role, but like I said, he's played more for comedy. Like I said, I had a feeling, and I talked about this before, that they would use him in a more serious way, and they are. Because obviously, you knew what time it was the moment Tien shows up and the ice cream shop is under construction. Interesting. Oh, the car washer is shut down too because someone reported some issue. Oh, also now he's also having to move with his siblings, which that in itself does happen in the webtoon. Losing his job, because once again, the only job he really has is working the car wash, but he never loses that. I'm fairly sure that never happens. I know the house situation happens because it's really interesting because obviously, once again, once you see, once is one thing, twice maybe a coincidence, 3 times is like, yo, you're catching a pattern here. But what's so interesting is like I said, that happens exactly in a webtoon, but it's not orchestrated by her grandfather. It's just basically the situation. I think Jaegu was falling behind on his payments, and he just wasn't. The price of rent kept going up, and not the homeowners, the landlords is the word I was looking for, were basically increasing the price, and he just wasn't making enough to compensate for. Very much like the conversation the same conversation that Tien has with his landlord about just give me some time, but she's like, yo, you're always late on your payments. You're lucky that I've kind of cut you as much slack as I have because we felt bad for you. It's kind of a similar thing, except in the webtoon, it's a couple, it's an older couple. The wife is a little more lenient. The husband's the one that really pushes for it. So this is where I'm also curious, they've set up, maybe they'll handle it the same way the webtoon did. I don't want to spoil it till we get there, but I'm so curious to see if the show handles that situation. Is it going to be resolved exactly the same way the webtoon resolves it? It's going to be really interesting to see. But yeah, like I said, it wasn't like an orchestrated thing. It's just kind of like, yeah, life happens sometimes, and that's why Jaegu like had to like was in a position to move. Like I said, that situation gets resolved, but like I said, we'll wait and see how it gets resolved in the live action before I talk about that. But yeah, like I said, like her grandfather never went that far and like above like in the webtoon, so it's like that's kind of evil. Like he's trying to prove a point, but you're kind of going about it like the worst way. But I guess it's almost like, hey, if you're like, this is a true test. If you're ever to go past, it's like, you know, it's like why put someone you, because it's messed up, because like you know he's struggling and you're going this hard into pain. Now, not unless we find out things aren't what we think they are. Okay, so first and foremost, this kind of came to me at the end of the episode. What if it's actually not her grandfather? What if it's actually Shi Wei doing stuff? Because once we know he has beef. He just ran into Hao, Yanan, and Zhao Mi last episode, and they humiliated him. So he already kind of made it clear he wants to come after Tien. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna come after your weaknesses. Everyone has a weaknesses. And like, rather coming directly, why don't come from the side? He already kind of set that up with her grandfather. So it might be kind of like a red flag, not a red flag, a red herring to make you think, well, obvious it's her grandfather. It seems so obvious. I mean, it might just be that straightforward, but part of me is like, not unless they're trying to twist it, because like I said, there's at least, it's like, would he go this far? It's like, because also that line could have been a red herring of like, well, we'll see. Like, it's not that I'm going to do anything, but he might be like, it's like, right, life can throw curveballs at you, and it depends on how you really handle and respond to that. I think as a businessman, he could also appreciate that too. Like, being able to adapt is very important in his line of business, I'm sure. But like I said, it feels like it could be 50-50. Like I said, I have no idea how this is going to handle. Once again, it's not from the webtoon, so I have no idea how they'll like handle that, because it'll make it a little like, I could see the story playing out with a way of, yes, it was her grandfather, which if it is her grandfather, that complicates things. I mean, even under the assumption that it is him, which there are evidence that kind of seems like it might be him, because like Yu's brother finds it. But that's the thing, he could have been looking into it, but never actually, like, he might have been like, oh, someone purchased this land, oh, let me like look into this, because he might have noticed that, like he might have been keeping an eye on everything related to Tien. Like I said, it seems like it's him, which it super could be, but I'm also going to keep my mind open to be like, it could just as easily be Shi Wei doing some like BS, you know. So we'll have to wait and see. But like, Tien doesn't want to let anyone know. Initially I thought he didn't want to let you know, because he's like, I don't want to bother her, like she's going to work, and I just don't want it to be an issue, which is so sad, because like, this is that's your significant, that's when the significant other's also there for you to like, you know, be like, hey, I'm kind of like, you know, let them know what's going on. Cause I could definitely see you being upset that Tien didn't tell her anything, especially when it's like he suspected her grandfather might be behind it, but it's like they just repaired their relationship, and he's like, I don't want to be the reason why they have issues, especially knowing like outside of her brother, like this is only other family she has, and I don't want to be responsible for driving a rift between grandfather and granddaughter, you know. So there's kind of like that selflessness in Tien that's also there. So it's like that seems to be his main motivation for like not letting you know, because I thought it was just him not wanting to bother her, you know, because she's even saying like, oh, I'll hire an electrician to come check out your place. It's actually kind of funny, because I don't know if that's supposed to be kind of like almost a wink and nod to the webtoon, where it's like very like, basically Jaegu was having issues with like a water heater in his house, and like 3 like very prominent people like related to that were coming in. It was like 3 or 4 people that are prominent. It's like it comes up in like 2 chapters. It's a bit at one point, and then later on near the end of the series it becomes another bit of like these people coming up. They're like very like high in their trade, and they all have a part to play in understanding like, oh, like giving him the best water heater possible. It's something like that. I'm wondering if it was almost supposed to be like that, because she's like, hey, because when she was at his place the lights went out because the rain, like it raining so much and storming, kind of knocked out like the power cords to his place, which happened from time to time. That's why they're already prepared, lit up candles and stuff. But you know, I think it was his sister that was like, right, this is almost like a romantic, like dinner by candlelight. It's like, yeah, it's very like romantic. So, to make the best of it, but something they're used to. And so she's like, right, I can hire an electrician to come over, but he's like, I don't want you to bother. She's like, I knew you'd say that, but even if you don't want to do that, maybe we could look it up online how to do it. And one day while your brother and sister are away, or maybe they're off or whatever, we could kind of work on it together, and that'd be fun. It's just that was kind of sweet. So like that's when I'm curious if that's kind of in reference to that webtoon bit I was talking about, or is that just kind of like, will that come up? And probably won't. Like, once again, the show's pulling some stuff from the webtoons, but there's certain bits they're not keeping. So I'm curious if that was supposed to be like a wink and nod to that or not. It could easily just be me reading way too much into that. I did think it was interesting that he ended up, obviously, of course, the person he would call would be Hal, because it's like, yeah, there's only like a handful of people he's gotten close to, and it's like, because for one, Hal's mom has already looked after his siblings beforehand, so he's like, right, I know she's great with the kids, she's been nothing but good to me and my family, so yeah, and she offered to, and Hal's like, yeah, come on in and stay, obviously we'll have to share a bed in my room, whereas your siblings will sleep with my mom. And it's kind of this cute thing of him being like, yeah, but I do snore. And Tian's like, yeah, that's perfectly fine. I mean, I'm the one kind of intruding upon you, so I can't really make much fuss. It's actually really beautiful. It's like, hey, come on, man, we're friends, aren't we? You don't have to stress about it, dude. Mikasa Tsukasa type of situation, And I thought that was really beautiful. And even later on, Hal's mom is offering him a job at the stall, being like, hey, you won't get paid that much, but you will be able to get paid enough to handle your daily necessities. And it's like, once again, it's just like, she's such a good person. It's like, I mean, Hal's a good person too. It's like, well, obviously with a good mom like her, of course he's gonna turn out great. So it's just like, man, that family's too good, Speaking of Hal, I do love him and Zhao Mi hanging out, and what I think it's so interesting is we see the bubbling of, it's there because she's teaching him taekwondo and stuff, and his leg gets a cramp or whatever, and she's massaging it, and she's icing it, saying oh, you should ice it, and you see that it's happening for the first time. I think Hal is starting to be like, wait, why is my heart pounding like that? I don't get it. It's starting. She hasn't viewed him that way, but he's starting to view her that way, so it is interesting. Because someone even, I think, yeah, it was Yanan being you and you're into someone. Is it still Fong Yu? And it's no, it's not. He kind of but I think it's also he's trying to figure it out, because he was asking her, do girls like the pretty boy types, like Tian, who has very delicate features, and it's that's kind of what most girls go after. And she described Tian as a certain way. He was like, oh, I'm like this too. She's like, no, you're more like the abstract piece of art that no one can decipher. It's I love that conversation between Yanan and Hal. But either way, it was kind of cute seeing the building blocks to what that future might hold for Zhao Mi and Hal. I even love later on finding out about Tian's circumstances. She's still hung up on him to an extent, hasn't fully moved on. She's even clarified that before. But it's how are the siblings? Are they good? It's Hal's right, you can stop by my place. You don't have to as long as you don't show up unannounced, it's fine. She's like, cool. I just had to make sure you gave me the okay, because she's going to check on Tian and everything. And even ask him what kind of muffin do you want? He's like, oh, can I get this type? And she's like, and every time he lists off one, she kind of gives him the stank face, no. And he's like, whatever you want to buy me. She's like, good, I'll get you the original. He's like, whoa, Zhao Mi, how'd you know the original is my favorite? And it's shut up, Hal. Because it's yeah, when you've literally crossed off every other version, of course, the originals, but, maybe there's truth to the original just being his, and it's just, he didn't correlate, well, yeah, I did kind of knock off every one, because probably the other ones cost extra. She's like, yo, I'll spend money on Tian and his siblings, not you. So you get the basic muffin or something. Maybe that was the thought process behind why she gave, she was not a fan of any other decision he was making of what type of muffin he wanted. Going over to Yanan really quickly, she's going for her run, and I think it's kind of interesting. It's actually really neat. She starts creating a list in her head, the reasons why she likes herself, which is a very beautiful thing. Being able to love yourself is important too. But then, obviously, during her run, she runs into Guanyan, and they just look at each other, and they run past each other, and he stops and he turns back, and then that line is kind of very heartbreaking, with her being like, The first thing I hate about myself is how much I want to turn around and look, but she didn't and just kept running along. So we eventually have Guanyan and Zhao Feng meeting up again, and I guess he's kind of just been avoiding her, maybe specifically since his punishment. We haven't really seen them interact at all since his punishment. Except for that time, like, they didn't interact, but it was her nearby watching when, like, Yi Chen was kind of, like, chastising him. Well, no, because I was like trying to remember. No. Like, the last time they interacted was when Tien challenged her, like, to kind of study her moves. I think that's the last time we've seen them on screen, like, interact. But maybe this is supposed to be post her telling Yana everything a couple episodes back. And for her, it's like, right, it's like, who are you doing this for? Because it turns out his punishment's done, but he's like, no, I'll keep at it. And she's like, who are you trying to do it for? Like, Yana, she's never going to take you back after everything. But he's like, you know, whatever it is between Yana and me, that's just us. And Zhao Feng is just kind of like, right, I would rather you hate me than ignore me like you have been. And it's just like, for him, it's like, I can't hate you. Like, whatever's going on between me and Yanan, like, that there would have been issues regardless of you telling her what you told her, you know, her. So I can't do much about it. And just, because once again, Zhao Feng was just hurt because she was hurt. She wanted Yanan to hurt because it's like, I wanted to ruin what you were feeling because you kind of ruined what I was feeling towards you. So, I mean, it's kind of very much in the same vein of Zhao Mi doing everything she can to, like, sabotage any alone time Tien and Yu would have had. But Yanan's kind of response to that was she kind of slicks her hair back more, and all the girls at the school start tripping out because they're like, "Oh my god, there's someone here hotter than Tien!" And they go and look, and it's Yanan, and even Zhao Mi's kind of like, right. So she's double, like Zhao Mi recognizes like the signs of, right, you're doubling down when it comes to boxing. You know, because you're dealing with like your love life situation. Because Zhao Mi's kind of going through it too. Because like the Taekwondo club is like, oh my god, you could be a champion, but she's like, no, I'd rather like be cooking for the person I love type of situation. Funny enough, because they're not going to do this bit because where the story is, but in the webtoon, her fellow Taekwondo club members end up, because Zhao Mi kind of quits Taekwondo for a while just because she wants to focus on the whole housewife and being there for Jaegu type of thing. And so members of the Taekwondo have to convince Jaegu to like convince her to go back to being a Taekwondo member, because it's like, right, her like putting forth her effort again, but like she kind of like goes super hard in the paint, and it was like, oh, I guess we kind of over motivated her. So it's kind of like a funny bit to kind of get her back into Taekwondo after she kind of bowed out for a little bit because of all of that. So it's kind of in a similar vein in this, because they're like, yeah, you can do this, but she's like, no, I just want to be like a housewife. Like, once again, that already come up previously. Like I said, I can't remember who was talking about it. Oh yeah, Chuanhua was talking to Tien about it, where it's like, yeah, like she could really go toe to toe with Queen if she wanted to, but she's more focused on being a housewife than a champion. So that's always been like one of her biggest issues is motivation. At least on like that side of things, when it comes to like the combat side of things. But either way, circling back over to Guanyan really quickly. There's a whole situation of him training Yi Chen, because Yi Chen approaches him and is like, yes, like I want to actually like try this properly. I want you to train me, which Guanyan, I think for him, it's like, oh, I see it now. Like you before, you were just like, you were worried about the wrong things, but I see it now. I see the like spirit of boxer in you again. Because the last time he saw it in Yi Chen was before he fought Tien, and it's like interesting. Tien, like I brought that up previously in I think maybe the previous review of how Tien was his motivation before, ends up being his motivation now. But even Yi Chen, when it's like, okay, we're going back to basics because your fundamentals are loose. You need to like, having a strong fundamental and foundation means everything that when you build everything on shaky foundation, that means nothing. So it's like, there was even this metaphor of like, right, before now you've been making these illusionary, like your steps were illusionary. So you were so focused on just like intimidating people. But now that they're firm, you don't have to use your hatred for someone as motivation. Because even him, Yi Chen was saying like, yeah, like now I actually, my motivation was to be able to beat Tien, but I don't, like, as time is going on now, I'm training more and more. I actually don't hate him anymore. It's like, oh, I was like, that's kind of nice personal growth. Like I said, like, we never, not only did we get the continuation with the character in the TV show, but we're also, like I said, like, getting this arc with him of him being a better person, or at least, you know, trying to be at least. So, like I said, that was kind of neat that we're getting that continued exploration. So. We even had Guanyan and Zhao Feng basically make up because he's trying to tell her not to push herself too hard, because it's like, by pushing yourself, you're just going to, like, hurt your muscles in the long run, so don't do that. And she's like, oh, now you care. Like, all this time you've been ignoring me. And, you know, for her, like, all she's focused on right now is beating you in the tournament, because she says, like, there's a thing she's going to do. She wants to basically make the most of her college years, and she's like, I won't be participating. Like, she's going to take a very specific thing, like, I think it's like a test, or there's something she's going to take, and because of it, she's not going to be participating in a tournament next year. So this is kind of like, I'm putting all my eggs in one basket. I'm putting it all in this fight to take down you. That's going to be my goal. And so, because of that, like, you know, Guanyan's like, right, I see where you do what you're doing. I will help you out, regardless of whether me and Yannan get together or not. I'm going to help you. I'll be your trainer. And she's like, why? Because you're my friend. He's like, no, not just your friend. I'm your partner too. I was like, that's really sweet. Like, I think them having that, you know, I wonder, will they set anything up with Zhao Feng, like her potentially getting with anyone? I don't know if it's gonna be like a maybe her and Yi Chen type of thing, or what. They haven't really set that up, but I mean, maybe, you know, maybe her character arc won't really revolve around it. It's more about her and Guanyan finding the way forward. So, which, speaking of him, he also runs into, I think, because I thought it was interesting because they had never circled back to this storyline, but there was this guy that you ran into at the tournament, the preliminaries. He was watching stuff and then he bailed. And now this is our first time seeing him. Like, he was only in one episode for like a couple minutes, and now he's popping up and he wants to challenge Guanyan. And I'm like, I wonder who's he supposed to be, because he kind of feels like the character I've talked about this before. There's a character that, like, works at the car wash with Jaegu in the webtoon. They met through the tournament. And he was trying to get revenge on everyone, but then eventually he spent so much time following Jaegu around that he eventually actually started working at the car wash, and they actually kind of basically became like co-workers and friends because of it, right? So, also, because that's another thing too I was thinking about, just because of the Zhao Feng thing, I'm like, yeah, they're probably not going to adapt anything with her storyline, her family, because there's only like, this is episode 26, there's only like 10 episodes left, so there's a lot they're not going to end up adapting. But without going into it too much, we've got extra reason to read the webtoon too. Even though I'm talking a lot about stuff, there is a whole arc and storyline that revolves around Hieshin's brother, Hieshin being, once again, the webtoon counterpart to Zhao Feng, or Zhao Feng being the counterpart to Hieshin. But either way, there's a whole story arc revolving around her brother, her older brother, and he ends up becoming like a recurring character, pretty recurring character later on in the webtoon after that arc. So either way, putting all that aside, that just kind of got me thinking about that. But I'm curious to see who this guy is and what because he said something interesting where he was like, I want to challenge you because amongst, like, he's kind of looking down on Queen Queen, I was about to call her by the webtoon character's name, Queen, Yannan, and Zhao Mi, being like, oh, you're the only one I think could give me a real challenge. She's like, well, he's never seen all three of them really, really cut loose. So there's a character, like I said, who kind of fits that mold in the webtoon, and he's sorely mistaken when he thinks like, oh, it's this and that. Not unless, like I said, not unless he's supposed to be playing kind of the gangster character dude, because he kind of had a similar perspective on, like, thinking he was hot shit, but he kind of got molly-whopped pretty quickly. So, and probably, like, I think it was like a single, if I remember correctly, like, I forgot who he went up against. Maybe it was Moon Young? I don't remember, because I think he got knocked out, like, it definitely wasn't Queens, and I don't think it was Dado. I think it had to be Mu Young, because I know it tied into something related to, like, one of his previous opponents was someone that Mu Young knew, and, like, it kind of gave her extra motivation to take him down. So I believe it was Mu Young that like I think maybe with a single blow knocked him out, or maybe it was like a swift combo. I can't remember now. So not unless he's supposed to be playing kind of that gangster character too. So we'll have to wait to see what that character's circumstance end up being, what that storyline turns into. Because Guanyan chose not to fight him because he's like, I'm not in a tournament. I'm also not going to fight someone outside of it. Find someone else. But that smile across his face, you're like, oh, he's going to start some crap. He's going to cause some issues. So I don't know if it's a thing of he's going to like... I'm trying to remember, did that happen in the Webtooner? Because there was someone that got attacked outside of the match. I want to say it might have been Manon who got attacked outside of the match. Maybe to this particular person, and they end up beating him, but it's only because like Manon didn't go all out because it was an official match, so he couldn't fight like he normally could have. If I remember correctly, I think the gangster character did beat someone up out of the ring, but it's like you're not as good as you think you are. You were just misguided because you were like, right, it was like a street fight, like under these regulations. Like we can't fight outside of the ring. That's kind of the golden rule. So of course he wasn't going all out. He wasn't fighting like he normally would have. Even without the regulations, I wasn't in a ring, so I couldn't fight like I would want to. So that might be where that storyline goes. That's why I'm kind of like he might try and still go after Guanyan, but Guanyan won't defend himself and probably get severely beat up. That might end up tying back into the Yanan story in that regard, in that capacity. So obviously this is just all speculation based on stuff from the webtoon that might correlate to some of this stuff. We'll have to wait and see. But other than all of this, we also have the situation where when Tien was he was meeting up with Queen's brother because he was like, yo, like my grandpa was behind this, don't tell Fangyu, but he's like, I wasn't going to. Once again, the whole conversation of they're in a better place and I don't want to come in between ruining that relationship now that they're in a good place, which makes it even sadder if he is responsible, because she went and got him some desserts and tried to get him one that wasn't as sweet, try to get something that was a little better for him, especially with his health and stuff. So that's why I'm like, you could still end up redeeming him, but that's why I still feel like it's probably not going to be him. We're probably just going to make Shi-Wei just that much of a douchebag, even though he's already been one regardless. But like I said, his counterpart, the webtoon version of him that he's the counterpart to, it's bad, but we only saw internally he kept a lot of his douchiness to himself, but he also, like, relatively speaking, like he does, like I said, an extremely douchey thing that they've kind of already done with the live action so far with him and Yi-Chen, but still, we haven't really gotten a payoff for that unless this in itself is. We'll have to wait and see, like I said. But either way, because of that, some people came up and they're like, hey, Mom, you're Mama Hao. We want to buy your food stall and your house and just kind of tell us what you want. And because she had brought it up to Tien's attention, like, isn't it kind of suspicious how things kind of happened to you in Threefold? You lost both your jobs because shit just kind of happened all at once, and you also got rushed to leave your place too. It's like, isn't that kind of weird? It's like, yeah. So Tien was already kind of feeling that, and this moment these people showed up, Mama Hao was like, I'm not stupid, I know what this is about. And they were harassing her, and lo and behold, who steps in but Yanan's dad, and he's like, yo, step back, I can take care of these guys, and he's fighting to keep her safe. There's a similar thing in the webtoon, kind of where like stuff starts popping off and like people around Jaegu kind of get dragged into stuff. This is more so like, this is about that Jonathan character. This also leads me to believe it might also be Shi-Wei, because this might be like the setup that they were doing and with the whole like that the suitor storyline, as well as his buddy Jonathan. Like, Jonathan was the main perpetrator for like coming after Queen and trying to ruin her and stuff, because he was just like petty and vengeful and stuff. But essentially, there were some thugs that showed up at Mu Young's place, and her father like basically fought them and beat them up. But the problem was he didn't mean to do it. It was kind of almost self-defense, because he was like, oh my God, my body started acting on its own. Because it's one of those instances where you find out, right, her father's a boxer. Because like they just like, there were bits in the webtoon where you find out like some of the people's parents being the martial artists that they were. But he just kind of felt bad. He was like, oh my God, please don't sue me. Like, are you okay? Please tell me you're okay. You guys tried to attack me and I defended myself. I'm sorry. It kind of gave the same energy while also not. But I thought it was so interesting that he ended up pulling his back, and so she ends up having to help him inside. So it's like, hey, kind of forcing YouTube back together, and we'll hopefully get some resolution to that. So we kind of left off things there. But yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. As I've said, well, I said 10 episodes before, but it's really like 11. But yeah, we're down to the last 11 episodes. I'm kind of surprised. I'm kind of like running through this so quickly, but it's like I'm pretty much watching at least, bare minimum, at least an episode a day. And I'm releasing these once a day. So like, I don't know what episode I'm up to now release-wise. I want to say maybe 13 might be at the time of me recording this. I don't know. I might be further along. I actually don't remember. I might be 15 or 16. I don't remember. But either way, that's kind of neither here nor there. Like I said, I'm excited to see where all this takes us going forward. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.